Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy Road Dogg here with none other than the man, the myth, the 4.5-foot legend himself. Karl Bryan is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Shoots, welcome to the big show.
The big show, the little show, Shoots. I'm getting shorter. What's going on, bud? What's going on, Road Dogg?
Well, there is a ton going on as we were just had a couple of, it's funny, like we are, for those that are listening on the podcast, we do a pre-show exclusive for people that are part of your coaching program. But anywho, we had some really good wins, a big win that was just shared there. And then we also had some really good conversation as well, just in terms of recurring revenue and sort of taking on bigger and bigger problems, which actually leads me straight into the very first question. Because the first question that we had was, what does it take for a client to become a great company leader, CEO? And I figured, wow, this works out perfect, because in the pre-show we're talking about how problems continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I guess, so what does it take? Because obviously, if you're going to be a great leader, CEO, you got to be able to knock down all these problems. So can you give us a frame what you think it takes for a client to become a great company leader?
Nice segue, Shoots, by the way. Nice segue. I'm impressed. Okay, well, look, Warren Buffett would tell you, and again, in my mind, I'm kind of going like, well, who's the best? Warren Buffett, if he's not the best, he's pretty damn close. He will tell you that his personal superpower is that he says no to 90% of everything. I've said this lots of times in multiple different ways, but that won't change. Growth is yes, success is no, right? Think about that. I think like in my own little world, and I am not in any way categorizing myself in Warren Buffett's company, because I am absolutely not. But I will tell you that I am smart enough to follow what the greats do and say and follow. And I get asked for an interview, if it's not daily, it's pretty damn close. And it's just a hard no. I don't even see somebody manages my inbox and I don't even see the invite. Don't want to know about it. Just a hard no. But bottom line, look, the answer would be this. Maybe I don't even know if that was the right. Look, data driven, put that in quotations. It's an unrecognized superpower. So if you're asking me, how do you become a great CEO or leader of a growing company that's going to make a dent, be data driven. Most people think like the high profile types you see on Facebook. Again, when you see somebody on Facebook and they're talking about how they had a $50,000 day or whatever, like it's just legit guys are just not going to post that. It's not going to happen, right? Like it's just not happening, right? And by the way, I would dare say it's the exact opposite, right? Like again, is find pictures of their kids or what have you, or them trying to educate you, trying to push your buttons, trying to say, look, stop doing this. But you know what I mean? Like they're trying to deliver value. So something to think about right, is when you take the great CEOs, right, and Jack Welch, his name would come up. Right. And there's a book called Outsiders where they highlight this. But the reality is, if you analyze the data, he really wasn't that good. He was as much, quote unquote, celebrity as he was CEO. But he never passed. You'll see if Jack Welch, he never passed up an opportunity to grab the mic or jump on camera. Right. Well, the best leaders of companies, and I'll just say more often than not, this is not black and white. And that's not to say that Jack Welch wasn't great, by the way, but it's just he's recognized as one of the greats of the greats of the greats. And the way that you get to be great in that role is by the numbers. And if you analyze them, you analyze the data, his numbers are not that wonderful, right? So that the leaders of the most successful guys / gals are the ones that you've never heard of. They're definitely not the ones that are, celebrity driven. And just think of Bezos and Zuckerberg. Again, you never see them getting interviewed. You never see them anywhere, right? They're celebrated because they're such massive successes. But that is long, like they were, like, you know what I mean? They weren't celebrated in the early days, right? They're totally data driven. And I take a guess that 10% of business owners in this world would be classified as quote unquote data driven. And then if you look at the stats, 90% fail, 10% are data driven, there might be something there, right? And if you give me a room of 100 people and, what is the language of business is the question posed to the audience, what percentage of people do you think will put their hand up or say marketing? And the truth is, and I think you probably know this if you follow our stuff, but truth is the language of business is accounting, like the end. This isn't me. This is Warren. That's what Warren Buffett says. And Warren Buffett is the guy that I'm going to default to, right? Success, look, said differently, success in business is just math. And you'll see in my emails, and I haven't done this in a little while, but I used to talk about math a fair bit. Or the numbers to do. And I always, very seldom, I don't think I've ever used the word math in my emails and my blog posts without capitalizing it. Because again, I just want to, draw your attention to it. So, and you don't need to be magic in math, right? So now, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a numbers gal, right? You don't need to be magic with math. You need to, in order to be good at business, you need to know what math to seek, right? Like you don't need to be able to create financial documents. You need to be able to read them. The same way that you don't need to be an electrician to turn on the lights. You need to know what you're looking for, which is a light switch. And then you also know that it's in the, you have a pretty good idea as a general vicinity as if the light is there, where the light switch might be. You know what I mean? Like think about that as your metaphor. So there's certain math that you should be looking to. So Road Dog, that's what I'm going to say. To be a great CEO, it's not to be high profile. It's not to be, in fact, I had an internal call literally today, this morning. I was going for my walk with one of my internal team. And one of the things I said, is that, my words, right? And this is a very important part of my team. I just said, look, I want a little bit less rah, and I want to have a whole lot more. This is in your inbox. Just sent this. I want to have a lot more measuring going on. I want to have a lot more completed, we'll call it implementation, right? Because it's 3 levels of business as I see it. There is implementation, level 1. Level 2 is management, and then level 3, imagination. Think about it that way. The money is all made in level 3, imagination, but you can't get there without the implementation, right? So needs to be some imagination led to implementation, and that is what I would define as a really good leader. Bottom line, you look, just data driven is my answer, Shoots, but I don't think many are thinking along those lines. So,
and just for clarity's sake, what grade is your daughter in?
What grade? She's in grade 2.
Okay. So, okay.
Answer that it should have been, but she's in grade 2.
Okay. So I just want you all to be very clear. When we say you don't need to be that great at math, when Karl struggles with his daughter's homework, but he can still help a business, like there's hope for the rest of us. I just want to point that out there, because there are times when I struggle with my kids' homework and I'm like, I am horrible at math. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. So with that in mind though, now you're talking about math, you're talking about data, you're talking about reading financial statements. Just to kind of, I want to go a little bit granular here, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
What sort of data should a coach be tracking? Like, do you have anything specific that, like, yes, here's your whatever, the KPIs, whatever, like what sort of data should a coach be tracking?
Yeah, nice. Look, good news, your data doesn't need to be, overly complicated. In fact, it probably works best when it's, nice and simple. Let's assume somebody's starting from scratch. Here's what I had in my office for years: a whiteboard, and I had new coaching sales written across the top. and it was only for new coaching clients we signed up, right? So somebody like a recurring payment didn't factor into this board. It was new coaching clients. And the columns, I had a column for Monday to Friday. In fact, I think I probably had Saturday and Sunday because I was doing that. But let's just say I had 7 columns, predominantly Monday to Friday. And then I had a total. So it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if I include Saturday and Sunday, that's 7 days. And then I had a total for the week. And then, by the way, I would also, my whiteboard was big, and then I would have a total for the month. And with 100% discipline, I wrote down the number of sales for that day. And I'm pretty fiercely competitive just by nature. And I got to tell you that placing a 0 in the column, like it would, it drove me nuts, to the point of almost like shaking, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, what didn't we do? Why didn't we do it? What, you know what I mean? Again, and not thinking about that day, it's because you know that the sales are made 90, 60, 30 days prior. What have we not been doing for the last 90 days that would lead to having a 0 on the bloody, sales board? And I'd do it with discipline, and then subsequently the zeros. And if you're in the game where, most days you're not making a sale, that will stop happening. And by the way, you can also have upsells and that sort of thing. So that one simple tracking / data, that's a very loose, lightweight data strategy, by the way. But I got to tell you, I would dare say there's not many things that I can attribute to my, like a lot of success in coaching more than that. So, and another thing that I did is I had a world record week, right? Like, again, I was always very competitive. So I created a world record in the Olympics. There's always a world record. I had a world record week as well as a world record month. And I would acknowledge every week I would acknowledge whether I beat the world record, which was very seldom, obviously, but think about a competitively natured person having to acknowledge that they didn't get the world record, right? And just look, here's what I would encourage. If anybody's listening to that, and some are like, that's not for me, and then others are like, oh my gosh, they've got their whiteboard, and the marker in their hand already, just try it and then see what happens over the course of, a month, ideally 3 months, and just start tracking your, start tracking your sales. And then, by the way, help your high-end clients do the same. Your data should most definitely be a little more impressive than just quote unquote new coaching sales. So what you can do is, as you're moving along and your clients are moving along, start creating columns after like 90 days, like, new contacts, new appointments, events attended, events hosted, attendees to my live events. And you could maybe break that up into virtual and live, depending upon the dynamics of what you're up to. And then add more where necessary, but keep it simple to start, and then fall in love with tracking your data. Remember, don't do what you love, like all billionaires will tell you, but they've already made it. So I'm sorry, their advice doesn't count for you. Do what you're good at. And then the other side of that, if you want to make a lot of money, do what you're good at, not what you're passionate about. My opinion, that's a 1,000,000 times better frame. But what I'm trying to get at is I want you to fall in love with tracking. Right. Another hack, if you've ever seen a professional speaker and then they'll do like the whiteboard and they got a blue and then a green and then a red, and you wonder why doesn't he just use like a black marker or like a blue marker the whole time? It's right brain, left brain people in the audience, right? To like engage them. So like maybe part of what you could do, to fall in love with your tracking is make it colorful, make it cool. If you're an artistic kind of person, you probably suck at sales, and like maybe that's a way for you to fall a little more in love, with the tracking of your data, because you're probably not overly analytical, like make it neat. Maybe it's I don't know. I'm thinking about this as I certainly never did this, but like a flower could be representative of 1, and then there could be like something that's the shape of a 2. I'm thinking banana, but I don't think a banana is the shape of 2. But I think you get, what I mean? I don't know. Just fall in love with the tracking and find your own shtick, right? Whatever that is. But that fall in love, like don't again, not trying to fall in love with your business. Fall in love of marketing. Fall in love with the results of your clients. Fall in love with your coaching calls. Fall in love with, studying financial documents. My personal completely fallen in love with learning. I very solid, every day I'll go for a walk and I'm always listening to something. It's what I do, right? Most people go for a walk or run, they're listening to music. I've never listened to music ever. I would 100% listen to, something that would support my bigger goal. Anyway, and that's me. That's not you. So thinking about that, but fall in love with tracking that data is what I'm trying to say. Um, and just you know, okay, Road Dog. Last week I had a meeting with our internal guys. Might be ironic. This is like getting answered today, right? And we were talking about support and then ways to measure it, and then a key piece of data at the we'll call it the ultra customer centric company Amazon, because there's nobody more passionate about customer service, I don't think, than Mr. Bezos. Here it is: number of support tickets per order. Number of support tickets per order. The number isn't zero and the system isn't working properly. Think about that, right? Super happy. Here it is. Super happy customers don't send support tickets, right? And that, think about the magic of that, and all of this, by the way, like when we go back to the sales board, all duplicatable. And if your client's doing support, maybe that's something that they should be thinking about. What we're trying to work out is exactly how long should it take for a support ticket to be closed, done, dusted, and certainly, like remember, like we had each support ticket needed to be responded within 24 hours. That was like the rule. That was a part of the rule book. That was one of our rules, right? So anyway, it's all duplicatable. What can you be thinking about for your clients? Like if you've got a client and say they're a hair salon, in the what do you call it, in the staff room where they kind of eat lunch, or they're consistently walking through, put up a sales board. Because what are you trying to do when you own a hair salon? You want to sell shampoo, you want to sell conditioner, you want to sell hair gel and all the other stuff that might go with it. Have a sales board. And I'm going to tell you, the competitively natured are going to rise to the top, and your shampoo and conditioner sales will go up, just no question. So what else would I say there, Road Dog? So maybe, yeah. So look, Road Dog, that's what look. Okay, actually, no, hang on. In closing, so I was trying to think of something here, but okay, here's what all business coaches should do. Actually, no, reframe. All business owners should do this, and as a business coach, you got to be supporting your clients to do it. Okay, so most people that have heard our stuff have heard me talk about TTT, time to think, right? So you got to take 1 hour. A week is like where it should be a minimum. Could be every day, but that might be a little bit aggressive for most. But you take 1 hour. It's a pen, it's a piece of paper. I think that works way better than an iPad or a phone or something digital you put notes on. Pen, piece of paper. Close the door. No phone, no computer, no internet, no sipping of water, no getting up and going to the bathroom. Sort that all out before you sit down, right? And basically all you're doing is you've got a question that you put at the top, and then for 1 hour you just write down the answer. How are we going to get support tickets answered within a certain time frame? How are we going to eliminate support tickets for this unit of our business? And then all you do for 1 hour is just come up with ideas, and just like boom, 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 boom. That will be amongst the most functional and progressive and, what do I want to say, efficient. Like it'll be an excellent use of 1 hour without question. So reframing this, like for this conversation, another hour they should have is time to measure, right? So TTM, time to measure, same thing for an hour, where all you're doing is measuring activity in that 1 hour. Now, most business owners, you'll say, will not have enough data. Like, what the hell are they going to measure for an hour? Well, that's part of the problem. They take them about 30 seconds and they walk out the door. So what they're doing is coming up, so like, I think maybe 30-30 is a frame to get going, might be 15-15-15-15. But thinking about what things could you be measuring, okay, for say 30 minutes, and then going through the existing measurements, sales last month, revenues last month, traffic driven, like just every number that you could possibly conceive. And I believe that this could be a whole lot of paper printed out, so you might need to have an iPad, a computer present for that. But if you do, you got to have that bad boy on airplane mode, because it just can't be, they will get pulled away. So frame 2 hours a week, Road Dog. One, time to think. And then the other one, time to measure, 1 hour a week for each. And I'm going to tell you, you just if business owners do that, they probably won't, but I will tell you that if you do, like you're a business coach and you need to get 10 clients this month, what would I do? I would start with time to think. I would go into a room quiet with a pen and paper, and I would think about all the different things and the people that I could reach out to and the joint ventures that I could form and the offers that I could make and the people that I could talk to and the events that I could go to and the events that I could set up and what I could talk about on my Facebook lives and what I could write on Facebook and what I could write on Instagram. And maybe it's going to be a TikTok, whatever the like video. I don't know whatever. But that's where if I needed 10 clients in 1 month without question, this is where I would start. Where do most people start? They start with 1 zillion things going through their mind, and then they don't manage to get the focus. They don't manage to dial in. So anyways, Road Dog, you said things to track. So just pretty obvious different things. Understanding financial statements maybe should be mentioned in there. The truth is that most they're not ready for that, so I don't want to dilute the impact, because this should be the number. If you ask me what is the number one thing a high-end CEO does, and they are they track data, and then they analyze the data and then make their decisions based on data, right? Like, what do I say about gut, right? What does gut stand for? Gave up thinking, right? Don't go with your gut. If the football coach went with his gut on 4th and 1, he'd go for it every time. What does the football coach do 90 to 95% of the time? He punts it, right? If you let the quarterback, who is emotional, make the decision, they go for it every single time. That's why you have the coach and the quarterback doesn't make the decision, right? Don't go with your gut. Go with the data. Don't go with your gut. That's what I got, bud. What do you think? You like?
Yeah, it's good. It's funny because as I'm thinking of KPIs, tracking, stats, whatever you want to call it, right? So just as to put it in perspective too, right? So if you got a marketing campaign, obviously you got to see it through. And I would always caution people on the number of entry points that you have. You can always go granular later. Like you can always kind of go, oh, okay, well, where are you stuck? Okay, well, top of funnel. Well, okay, the ad isn't converting. Okay, well, what part of the ad, right? Yeah. Are people actually looking at it, and then are people just not clicking out? Then it's just what are the micro data points, but you don't need to worry about those because much like you were saying, like the percentage of small business owners that actually track their data, I'd be shocked if it was 5%. Like I'd be absolutely shocked if it was 5%. So for any coach to go in and actually start talking about tracking, like I can't even imagine the impact that would have on a business. It would be absolutely massive. To your point of TTT, I'm not sure if you've heard of it. Like I've been looking at the Remarkable tablet. Have you heard of this thing, Carl?
Oh, I have.
Yeah. So it's like a paper type tablet, right? So it feels like paper. It's not connected to like anything except for like your Google Docs, where you can then upload, or Dropbox your notes to, and it'll actually convert your handwritten notes into actual text. But I've been looking at that with the TTT in mind. Here's an opportunity, rather than because I'm at my desk and I'm like, man, I got way too many freaking notepads. Right? Like it's insane. Whereas this might be a pretty cool option. I know that there's some and again, why this? Because I know people will be like, well, Road Dog, just get a writing app on your iPhone or whatever. Yeah, no, too many distractions, right? Like this is just that. It's the equivalent to that, and a pad of paper and a pen, and you're good to go. But anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. Hey, Remarkable, if you're listening, sponsorship.
I have heard. I have not even as much as seen one, but I have. I've read about them, and the reviews for some people who I have respect for have been, they're impressive. So there you go. So that might not be a bad idea. And then, but again, what I would encourage everybody, try it, and it might be your thing. But I think there's some magic pen, paper, like the physical, what I mean, kind of idea to that. But there's absolutely some magic in capturing it into a document that you can revisit. So you know what? Try both. See where you go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's supposed to feel like actually writing on actual paper. That's the part that I'm really curious about. Like, how the hell does that work? But hey, man, whatever. PFM, right? It's just pure magic. So Just like electricity. I don't question how it works. I just hit the switch and boom, there it is. So there you are. Listen, I know we're up against a little bit, but I want to get into this question because you talk a lot about competitive advantage, right? Like I've heard you talk about it many, many times. So can you just sort of, let's just say, help me out because I know nobody else struggles with this. It's just a me problem. When looking to create a competitive advantage for your clients over the competition, like where do I start with that? Like, do you have a frame in terms of, because again, it's easy and you hear it a lot, right? Oh, I just got to have a competitive advantage. Okay, that's cool. But how the heck do you actually create that? Where do I start?
Ooh, okay. Well, okay, just go here, right? I would 3-point play for coaching. Point number 1 is the little red arrow, you are here. We to establish that, right? And then we got to go. Point 2 is what do you want? And then the great example that I led the metaphor and the example we've used many times, Kobe Bryant, want to be the greatest basketball player of all time, right? He's 15 years old, talking to the camera. You got to establish where you're at, and then you decide what you want, and then the coaching, the reality, the journey is the 2 points, right? And the more simple something can be, the more likely it is to get done. So by defining that goal nice and tightly, which sounds easy, very very hard to do, that can make it so much easier. And then, not to mention, establishing in a very honest, vulnerable way, you are here, which again, most coaches aren't willing to do that. Another example that I give, like, I wrote an email, one of my very first, but I did a daily email. It might have even been the first one. I think it was the first one. Anyway, so I just talked about Jim Carrey, right? You and I, Road Dog, we just love the guy, right? Good Canadian boy. And funny, I just think he's the best. Like, he did Man on the Moon. And if you know that movie, that's what is it, Andy Kaufman story. And he was in character for like 3 months. And then he did like Mask and Dumb and Dumber and then Ace Ventura, which I think is like just awesome and hilarious. But like, how does the guy who does Mask do Man on the Moon, such a serious role, right? And what I'm most actors, because they haven't established a little red arrow, you are here, they're spending all their bloody time going to interviews when really they should probably be going to acting school, was kind of like my frame for that. So a little red arrow, you are here. If you're not really that good at coaching, you're not really that good at passionate about business and helping these folks, look, this might be where you might want to start. Go and do some damn homework on how to help a business owner to do. And Road Dog and I on this podcast have apparently delivered a whole insane amount of value. You could just listen from episode 1, or you go enroll in a course or whatever you want to do, right? Hopefully that little red arrow, you are here. What do you want? You got to create that. But that being said, the ultimate competitive advantage, I've done this a lot in just different, like I'll have a room of people and ask them, because I'll tell you, there's a specific competitive advantage. This isn't necessarily what you were asking, but I feel like I need to go here. No matter what you're doing, saying, helping, or the sport that you're playing, from football to backgammon, basically in anything, I'd give you the same answer on the ultimate competitive advantage. And again, I've had rooms of people and I'll ask, and then I get, answers like, it's, what do you get? You get answers like communication. Look, you've got an inferior game plan and you communicate it with your players perfectly. Congrats. You just lost the game, but you sounded great doing it, right? Or, do you use, is it character, which is what some will say. Well, congrats. You've got great character. That same inferior game plan gets deployed. You shook hands after losing, unless you're Isaiah Thomas, right? So you were a really good guy. You were a fair player with good character, but you still lost, right? So the list goes on, and the answers are, very often the same and predictable. And again, it goes for hockey. It goes for any sport. It goes for building a career in acting. It goes for discussing politics, when debating, when you're selling against the competition, when you're at war, maybe more specifically when you're doing high level business or business coaching. What is it? And it's the ability to see the entire playing field, right? The war will be won in the tents, not in the trenches. And that's kind of just, against maybe what most, are kind of, thinking about as their frame. Wayne Gretzky's famous for saying he didn't skate to where the puck was. He went to where the puck was going to be, right? He created what he said. He created a 2-on. If you can picture hockey, you don't need to understand hockey to understand this. That he created 2-on-1s all over the play or all over the rink, right? So he had the puck. He would skate, and he'd be looking for not 4 of his players. He'd be looking for one guy, and then not all 5 of their players, but one of their guys. He created 2-on-1, and then he created 2-on-1, and then he created 2-on-1. Right, like that was kind of his thing. So that's kind of it. But the ability to see the entire playing field is 10 times more powerful. And when you're elite, the entire game, like, doesn't it slow down for you? Isn't that what Michael Jordan said? Isn't that what Kobe Bryant said? Many, many interviews, and no doubt a Wayne Gretzky interviews out there where he talked about that. And anybody that saw an entire playing field knew when they said 2-week lockdowns back in the day to slow the curve or whatever it was zero chance this thing was going to be over in 2 weeks. We knew that, right? We were kicking the can down the street, and 2 years later, welcome to your new normal, right? Surprised, not. So the view of the entire playing field is like, that is what I would call like your ultimate competitive advantage. And by the way, Charlie Munger's saying comes to mind, where show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. Again, competitive advantage is understanding that if you put the right incentives in place, the right outcome is going to come. And maybe you go back to the pandemic, like the government employees were making the decisions. Were they worried about getting laid off? Were the government officials concerned about a pay cut? Were their benefits in jeopardy? Was their retirement at threat? And the answer is no, no, and no. Well, show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. And magically they decided that we should all be locked inside and that we should shut down businesses and keep everybody safe, right? When you listen to the podcast, when Road Dogg and I were talking about it early on, I said, you could do 20% of the, what do you call it? The restrictions, and get 80% of the value, right? And they knew that early on, but they didn't make the adjustments to do. But there you go. So the ultimate competitive advantage is seeing the entire playing field. But then, Road Dogg, if we go granular, like business, what would I say? Look, what's the biggest problem that your clients face? Go and solve it. Like, again, we've said this a million times on the podcast, but we'll say it a million more. People come to us every single day as successful entrepreneurs, and is this a good idea, Karl? Will this be a profitable idea, Karl? Will this idea work, Karl? Right? It's like questions, idea. If you want to be successful in business, you got to change what we'll refer to as your spidey senses. And instead of looking for ideas at midnight and 2 a.m., or maybe it's 5 in the morning for you, what you want to do is identify problems. Okay. And then the question is, once you identify the problem, can you solve it? Right. And then, by the way, how many people have that problem? And then are people willing to pay big numbers of, a lot of money for those problems? How hard is it to find the people with those problems? Is it like people between the age of 18 to 25? Is it people over the age of 60? Like, I would just use one right now, like anti-aging, right? So I was in a skin shop. I'm a Road Dogg field in this, but it was at a shop the other day, and there's this guy. He's pretty. I'm going to use the word flamboyant. Okay. He's like, he's a flamboyant dude, man, right? Good guy, fun. I'd have a beer with him any day of the week. Anyway, so he's invented this face cream that is made by scorpions. And then he takes me in to his little dealio where he has cages for, like, I don't know, but like, I'm going to say 5,000 scorpions, something like that, right? I'm like, okay, get me the hell out of here. But anyway, and then he has this whole lab, which he showed me the whole thing. Guy spent $10 million developing this. And then basically this particular skin cream, they wear a glove, and then they piss the scorpion off. And then the scorpion stings the glove. And then the glove has a tube, which, by the way, he defined as he goes, see that condom looking thing? And he goes, that captures the 2 little droplets from the one bite. And then I think they can get them to bite, I don't know what it is. I'm going to say once a week. I can't remember what it was, but it's not like they're biting, like, just, put them back and then go grab them an hour later. That's why he's got thousands of these scorpions or whatever it is. Anyways, pretty hilarious. But the whole idea is you put this stuff on your face. And he grew up in Florida, and skin cancer is a passion of his. So anyway, so he believes that this is going to help save people from cancer, cure cancer, and he's a flamboyant dude, and he likes to look young. So he thinks that it's going to help people look young. And yes, I bought some, in case you're wondering. And so there you go. So that, like, he's solving, in his mind, and I say his mind because I don't know, but he is solving anti-aging in a very real and tangible way. Do you think if he say, oh, and by the way, Kate Beckinsale, they get, I probably don't need to tell you who that is, but she's reasonably attractive woman. She has never endorsed anything, as I understand it, and she endorses this, right? So anyway, so
I don't even know where to go with this. Like, this is. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, first off, were you wearing a very particular T-shirt when you walked into that place? That's the first question I have. But this is something else. This is, oh my God, you have the most magical stories I've ever heard. Like, first off, how do you put yourself in that position to meet that type of individual that's like herding scorpions? Like, where the hell do you meet these people, dude? It is amazing. Oh my God. I sure hope that was scorpion cream you're putting on your face. Anyways, wow. I had good, like, realistically fantastic points I was gonna bring up, and then you went like sideways there. So I don't even know. I'm lost right now, dude. I'm completely lost. You got to get this back on the rails. This is unbelievable.
It's amazing skin cream, I'm telling you.
Oh, dude. Oh my God. Yeah. So there you have it, folks. Scorpion cream and business coaching. I don't even know how these two things work together, but here we are. What are the metrics of his business, I wonder? Like, how many times the scorpion bites the glove, and then deposits the cream into the condom? I don't know. What's happening?
I swear to God, that happened.
Of course it did. Like, listen, if anyone has the most random stories of anyone I have ever met in my entire life, KB is at the top of the list 100 times out of 100. Like, there's no more need to test. The tests are complete. There it is. Oh my God, dude. That's magic. All right, folks. I have to leave it there because I don't know how I'm going to follow that up with any sort of question. So, all right, Scorpion King, do you want to leave us with the one thing that people can take out of today's episode and implement into their business?
Oh, that was good, Shoots. Thanks for the laugh, Shoots. Thanks for the laugh. Okay, so the one thing, get back on track. Look, one thing is data for sure. I want you to look over the last, so forget going forward. Okay, I'm going to challenge anybody listening to this. How much data did you track last week? And I would say if you're the 95, possibly the 99, but the 95%, definitely the 90, the answer is 0. And I'm going to say that that's a problem that you need to solve. And then you're not a math person, so you're like, oh my gosh, that's so, because again, if you do like a disc profile, like I said this a long time ago, Road Dog, to good, but like like what you look, you talk about great CEO, great leader earlier. Maybe this should have been the answer, or certainly part of the answer, but operating in a conscientious way, right? And again, my poor daughter, I say this to her all the time. She cleans her room. I'm like, you did that in a conscientious way. We're practicing spelling. You did that in a conscientious way. You know what I mean? Like conscientious. So operating in a conscientious way, but there's a really good chance that if you're a good entrepreneur, like conscientiousness is just not your thing. Like tracking data more specifically is just not going to fall on your, oh my gosh, I can't wait list. But that being said, you want to grow, you want to go to the next level. I think that there is some magic in that. So slow down to take many steps forwards. I've talked recently a lot about pause and silence and whatnot in my emails, but pause. Just take pause with your business and operate maybe a little bit slower. Write down your contacts, where it's at, get CR, like think of CRM and, establishing just some data points and whatnot, what's happening with your business. How many contacts, how many events, what have you learned you might want to put on the list? For me personally, I have a deep, deep, deep passion for learning. I just love it. Insatiable, appetite for new information. But that could become a fault, by the way. You got to make sure that you're taking that information and implementing it. But Road Dog, I'm just going to leave it with data, tracking data, but don't get all, like, it doesn't need to be all super amazing data, right? Like how many sales? Surely you can handle that on a whiteboard with a few different markers, right? And just, Monday's red and Tuesday's blue and Wednesday's green or whatever. That might be good for you, right? And there you go. So data. And then we said like 1 hour a week to measure data, maybe break it up into 30 minutes, right? Like 30 and 30. 30 minutes is what data could I be collecting, measuring, and then get passionate and fall in love with that process, hopefully in a conscientious kind of way. And then the other half is actually measuring your data, like looking at like, how did I only manage to make one sale last? That's not good enough, right? And then again, going to your, like how are you going to jack up? So I'm kind of mixing time to think with time to measure. Bottom line, measuring for an hour and then thinking about as half of that, what kind of numbers you're going to measure. And then time to think is defining a problem, write that at the top of your page, and then basically, writing like a banshee for the next hour on the answer and solving that question or answering the question at the top. So there you go, Shoots. That's my answer.
Well, it's funny too, right? Just to expand on that a little bit, not to encourage a rabbit hole, but just when you're putting down just the pure data on stuff, it's like, it's not just how many sales did I make, but how many sales meetings did I have, and then how many sales did I make as a result, and then all of a sudden you're going to become obsessed with the middle. How can I improve that by 1, by 2, by whatever? Right? Yes. It's sort when and just to go back now that I've got my thoughts and my wits about me again after the scorpion story. When it comes to data, the example I always like to give people is golf, right? Like if you're just the guy that's out there just smashing your drive as far as you can go and everything else, you're not playing golf. Like you're just not, right? Like if you're actually looking at the length of the hole and you're actually assessing which clubs and not just how far you want to hit, but where you have to leave yourself. And then you're tracking fairways and regulation, you're tracking greens, you're tracking putts. Like all of a sudden, all of these data points are going to give you a story. And that story is going to give you a better way to possibly even resolve and answer, give you better results. So it's no different in golf as it is in business. It's funny, somebody who's taking golf a little bit more seriously will have no problem measuring their golf data. And a lot of business owners are big golfers. So that might be a good one. Like, do you track your data when you're, like how many putts you take and everything else? Well, why aren't you tracking that inside of your business? So
actually, I want to jump in for one because I love it. You totally should have said that. Super important point. Thank you. So guys, it's not just because again, look, the sales are obviously, like fall in love with like, the sales appointments, the number of calls, etc. Again, getting too obsessed with the result, because here's what happens, right? Like and when you start taking time to measure, this will become abundantly clear really, really quick. What will happen is that, like, let's say I'm ripping around and I'm going to networking functions for real simplicity. So I go and I'm like, oh my gosh, I went to 10 networking groups this week. And then, but where did you go? You went, like, let's just call it BNI. I beat on them a little bit. I don't mean to, but like BNI is, you're not going to meet the highest level of entrepreneur at a BNI meeting, generally speaking, right? So I've often said, go to golf course, go to the yacht club, go to the, go to the high oil and gas club, like go to those events and you'll probably have more success. But make sure when you're doing your measuring, like you could be driving traffic online and then increase, let's just say you get, 1,000 leads a day, and your conversions are 1%, right? Well, then you all of a sudden, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to jack up my the number of leads. Well, then you go from 1,000 to 2,000, and then your conversions stay the same. So you think you're doing great. But what if all of a sudden, because you changed the campaign to get more leads, it led to decreased sales, decreased revenues, and decreased retention? So you've got to make sure that you follow, like, what's the goal? You got to clearly define what the goal is, right? And the goal is success. And then what does that mean? And part of success, and I'm, well documented, you got to be careful sitting there measuring your own numbers, because it should be about way more than that. But reality is that you got to feed the family, right? So to pretend like revenues are not critically important would be silly. But what I'm getting at is that you could go to more networking functions and then actually have your revenues decrease, your clients decrease, and the retention decrease all. And you're like, what the heck is going on? I've tripled my activity. And then think of the networking groups for driving traffic and all the different, direct mail campaigns, et cetera. You got to make sure that you see the data points all the way to fruition, like all the way through, not at a silo, you can't see these numbers in an isolated way, although you need to, but you got to see it as a body of work. And this is where you'll get better on the data tracking. So Road Dog, you bring up a really, really good point there. Thank you. Like it's really important that it's about the journey more than, just that end goal. But you got to understand, you could have way less appointments, way less meetings, and then have higher level clients. Like, close on this, Road Dog. Like, I put this on my personal Facebook page, where the way to drive if you have a tactical offer, you'll get the most leads. If you have like a strategic offer, you'll have less leads but a higher level client. If you use, like, what do they call it, a spirit driven, where, like, become the best coach you can be, as an example of a spirit. It's not the best headline, I could improve that, but hopefully you get the idea. That will bring in way less leads but higher quality, because the person that wants to be the best business coach they can be, it's going to bring a higher level of client. Like, we've got I talked about this recently. We're doing a how to read financial statements, basically how to find your fees in record time before even working with your client by reading financial documents. There's going to be a lot of our clients that aren't going to be interested, but who's is going to be interested, let me tell you, is going to be the ones that are going to kick some butt and the ones that are going to be successful. It's going to be the higher level folks that are going to be attracted to it. So, like, that, that reading financial statements, in other words, is going to intimidate some people, is what I'm trying to say. So those people aren't going to show up, but frankly, they're the ones that need to show up the most, right? And you're going to have a ton of accountants there, I guarantee it. So anyways, Road Dog, very good point. But data, gosh, it's such an important topic. And
it is. And it's funny how you say the people that need it the most probably won't show up. It's because their awareness it's not quite there yet, right? It's so funny how that always works. Just real quick, I just want to give one real quick tactical thing that everybody can do. Maybe this can be a segment going forward. I don't know what I'm committing myself to here, but the one thing that I'm going to say is, we all have calendaring systems, all of us, right? We're all like, and there's confirmations going out. Please don't have your confirmation emails suck. Because 99.9% of them are absolutely atrocious. Do you understand that nobody cares about, hey, here's a reminder, delete? What if all of your reminders, it's a sales opportunity. It's another opportunity for you to get them excited to actually get on a call with you. Don't, please, for the love of God, do not let that just be the standard meeting reminder that is there. Like, put in some testimonials, put in some extra value. Especially if you're a client of Karl's, you've got so much information and value you could drop inside of that are going to get people to go, holy smokes, this guy, every touch point, he's delivering value. So I just want to throw that in there. Please, please, please. So on that note, thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Karl Bryan himself, ladies and gentlemen, on this very show. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or you just want more information on all of the great ways that Karl can help you inside of your coaching business, go to focused.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the show, please forward it to a fellow coach or someone that, perhaps a great salesperson, that type of thing. And of course, as always, if you liked it, please rate it, as we know that is huge with all the streaming services. And that is it for another week. We will see you on the next episode, everybody. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.